Tony Wade, apartment number 8. I was originally from Fairhaven, Massachusetts. I was born on July 4th, 1947. I entered the United States Army on August 9th, 1965. I was regular Army. I enlisted the day after my 18th birthday, and I subsequently spent 3 years on active duty and another 3 years on inactive. I went currently back in 1972, 10th Special Forces at Fort Devens, Massachusetts. However, because of a previous injury, I had to get out within 30 days because my hearing didn't meet the physical profiles.
Tell us like a little about your life before joining the military. What was that like? What were you like?
I was just a normal, everyday kid growing up in Fairhaven in the outskirts of New Bedford. I went to Catholic schools. Then I went to my first public high school. I went to the same high school, my grammar school my father went to. I played football until I got caught smoking, which was on November 23rd, 1963, which was the day that JFK got shot. And I played football for 2 years. I was in the Key Club. And I didn't have a very outstanding high school career because I got involved in some substances while I was in high school, like my freshman year. Alcohol being the main one back then.
And what made you join the army?
I just wanted to get away from Fairhaven. I wanted to get away from my family. I wanted to travel.
All right, now tell us some of your basic training stuff.
I went through basic training in the last basic training unit to go through Fort Dix, the old military style barracks. I started on August 9th, 1965, and the unit that I went to had already been there for a week, so I only had 7 weeks of basic training. I originally enlisted to join the Corps of Engineers. Why, I don't know, but I ended up in my 7th week of basic training. They came up to me and asked me if the camera went out. Oh, the screen? They asked me if I wanted to go to OCS because all my scores were high. My AFQT test was 163. All my tests were through the roof, and they couldn't figure out why I got such mediocre grades in high school and I tested so well for the military. I went to Fort Belvoir for my advanced individual training in 1965, October 19th. I took a plane from New Bedford, landed in Dulles Airport, took a bus to Fort Belvoir. There I went through engineer school. I then was recruited to go to OCS in December 1965. They wanted me to go through engineer OCS.
What is OCS?
OCS is Officer Candidate School. I was only 18 years old at the time, and I was accepted. I went through all the pre-qualification stuff that they had, and then in March 1966, I entered OCS. I went for approximately 22 weeks. At the end of the 22 weeks, they told me that I was going to have to go back 8 weeks because they didn't want me to be commissioned before my 19th birthday. And that 18-year-old second lieutenants didn't have very long life expectancy in the Corps of Engineers. I refused because I told them I wanted to go with my class, which was all, they were all going to Vietnam. Had just started up about 3 months previous to that. They just started sending the troops over, and I wanted to go to Vietnam. My best friend, one of the reasons I joined the high school was my best friend. When I joined the military in January of 1965, he got an early graduation from high school. And the day that we graduated, which was like June 13th or June 14th, 1965, he was killed in Vietnam. So that was one of the main reasons that I joined the service. My other buddy, he joined the Marine Corps, and he did 2 tours in Vietnam, and I met him over there. He had both his legs shot off, put back on. He's currently one of the only people I know that was over there that's still alive other than me. What else you want to know?
How, like, knowing that your friend died and then your other friend got his legs shot off, how'd that make you feel about it?
Didn't bother me.
You just went in?
See, I went through OCS. I went through a lot of school. I went through Ranger training. I went through a lot of advanced individual training, and I had already, my whole class in OCS, 24 of us, of which I was the youngest by minimum 4 years. 75% of my class were Green Berets. And that's what I really wanted to do. I really wanted to get in, because back then, You had to be 21, 3 years prior service to join Special Forces. All right. When I went to Germany in 1966, I went to Germany and I had all my top secret clear. I went to Germany as a sergeant. I had all these security clearances for the different schools that I went through. I was mainly a demolition specialist, and I was nuclear qualified with ADMs, which is atomic demolition munitions. When I went to Germany, they sent me to the 23rd Engineer Battalion, and then I went up to Murnau, Germany, and I taught at the engineer school in Murnau, Germany. And I also went to Bad Tolz, which is the home of the 10th Special Forces, and I taught demolitions to some of them people. I took and I made a couple of TDY tours, which is temporary duty, and I can't go into that. I spent like 9 months in Germany, of which I only spent 3 months actually in Germany. I was in a lot of temporary duty assignments, different parts of the military sphere. I finally, in July of 1967, I 1049 Vietnam, and they didn't want me to do it. They didn't want me to leave because of my security clearances, and they were starting to draw troops out of Europe. And they told me because of the security clearances I had that I couldn't go over there because I'd get captured or some other silly horseshit. So I wrote a 3-page letter to my congressman, which I mailed to my father in a plain brown envelope. My father gave it to the congressman, and within a week, I had my orders to go to Vietnam with 30 days non-chargeable leave. I came back. It was like towards the middle of June, maybe the beginning of July 1967. I took one look at what was going on in my hometown, didn't like it, so I went out to Fort Lewis, Washington immediately, and I went to Vietnam. I arrived in Vietnam in like the first week in July 1967, and I stayed there. I thought until August of 1968, but it was really the end of July. And I was with an engineer unit, which was attached to the 1st Cavalry Division. And then I went with the 20th Engineers, which was LZ Clearing Team. And we went between Pleiku, which was the home of the 5th Special Forces, and then we did all the LZs for 173rd Airborne in Bong Song Valley. I was over there for Thanksgiving of 1967 when the 173rd almost got wiped out. We got overrun a whole bunch of times in October and November of 67. I went down to Kinh Yon, Phuket Air Base, to do some work for them. Then we went into Kinh Yon in February to pull some security duty for RMK BRJ, and that's when Tet hit the fan. When Tet took off, I came back. My LZ base was LZ Hammond, and we also had LZ Pony, LZ Dog, and LZ English, which were all up and down Highway 1 in Quinh Nhân Province. They were totally wiped out by the time we got back. We came up from Kinh Nhân. It took us like a week to get up there, and we went on foot. From there, they took us down to the town of Kinh Nhân, the harbor. They threw us on LSTs, helicopters, everything, which is the stupidest thing I ever saw in my life. And they shipped us up to Da Nang. And it's like the end of February, we got up to Da Nang, unloaded the LSTs, and we went up on the other side, probably 40, 50 clicks north of Da Nang, and we started building bases and LZs. And then we went up the Way, because the 101st was up in Way fighting. So we had to go up there and support them with demolitions. And what I basically did is I stayed out in the field the whole time that I was over there till the day I came home. I didn't want to come out of the field. I voluntarily extended my tour of duty for another year. They wouldn't accept it. They wanted me to re-enlist. They offered me $27,000 re-enlistment bonus, and I turned it down. I didn't want it. I wanted to voluntarily extend my tour of duty for 1 year, and they wouldn't do it. So I came home.
Coming home, what was that like?
I left, I thought it was August 9th, but I finally looked at my discharge about a month ago. I got out July 27th. So July 27th, I was in the place, Nam-o, Vietnam, Namho, something like that, name of the town. And within 24 hours, I was sitting in a bar at Seattle Airport, SeaTac Airport, and it was the first Sunday in the state of Washington that they could buy liquor, and the place was going berserk. We were all sitting there drinking, and I was with a couple of buddies of mine from the 173rd Airborne. And it's funny because when we were coming home,